Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode here on African Confessions. The following story that you're going to be listening to, it comes from a translation of a message that I received. The translation of that message, it reads like this. Hello, Brother Nashi, how are you? Can you please post my own story as hidden identity? I came here to South Africa. This was in the year 2014. I came here to study at this other certain university. So me coming to study in South Africa, it's not like my parents, they are rich, no. So what had happened was that my father, when he had gone for this other church convention, that was when he met this other elder from church. So this man, he was already a doctor here in South Africa. The man then spoke with my father and said that God had revealed to him that my father, he had hopes of me going to medical school, but my father was never going to be able to afford to take me to university. So God had instructed the man to at least help out my father. If my father will be paying for my fees, he was also supposed to pay something. So that is how I ended up studying here in South Africa. When I came here, Brother Nashi, I then started to be friends with this other girl. She was also coming from another province. And this girl, she was a Tonga-speaking girl. And the moment that she arrived in this province where we were both attending at this certain university, it was like freedom for her. And she was a disciplined girl, but university changed her. And because of the freedom, us staying alone, this made her to start dating boys and doing whatever that her mom did not want her to do when she was still very young. So at first, whenever she would bring one of her boys, then I will just go outside and wait, and then they will do whatever that they will do until they'll be done. Then I will return back in the room, since we were sharing the same apartment. With time, what she used to do is that she would bring her boyfriend over until I would have fallen fast asleep. Then they will start to do the act. Then there was a day when they were busy making love. They thought that I was sleeping, and when I woke up, these two people, they were busy. All that time, I had never made love to a man, and what I felt in my body, it was like something was hitting me with electricity. I could not control myself. I wanted a man. In that moment, I knew that it was too much. I just wanted to be with a man. It then happened that I started dating another guy who was from DRC. This man, he came from a very wealthy family. That man was the one who introduced me to traditional healers. When this man introduced me to traditional healers, it was first I had fallen pregnant, and he said that he did not want me to give birth to that baby that I was carrying, for it was not yet time. He went with me to this other traditional healer. When we arrived there, I was then given a 2-liter bottle that was full of some herbs that were bitter to taste. I drank them. Instantly, I started to bleed, like it was heavy bleeding. And then we left. So I kept on feeling that I was not okay, until there was a time when I told myself that I needed to return back to that traditional healer so that I can understand what exactly was wrong with me, because I kept on feeling this pain in my womb as if there was something that was stuck in there. I went to that traditional healer, and then the healer told me that there were some ceremonies that were supposed to be performed on me. Since I had done this ritual, he was open enough with me. He told me that when you have an abortion, it is straight murder in the eyes of the Lord. Your hands will be filled with blood, and you need to have a cleansing ceremony. I accepted to have that cleansing ceremony. I did not know that this was the beginning of all of my sorrows. I stopped going to church because whenever I would be at church, what I would feel will be something that will be terrible. Whenever the pastor will be preaching, when he will say, "May the Holy Spirit come down," I would feel as if the Holy Spirit will be raining fire down on me, in which it was very painful. So I stopped going to church for that simple reason, and I continued going to that traditional healer who was assisting me in whatever way that he could assist me, and until he told me that my spirit was very powerful. So what was needed was that we needed to do more rituals. So we ended up doing more rituals on top of the rituals that the Sangoma had made me to perform. We then went to this other river around Joburg, and that was when another cleansing ceremony was supposed to take place. But after we had gone to that river, I started having dreams of being chased by mermaids, those water spirits. I reported this issue back to him, and he told me that when he was busy baptizing me in the river, it seemed as if because I was too dirty and the blood that was on my hands since I had an abortion had angered the river spirits. So you won't even believe it. I was then told that for me not to be killed by those mermaids, what was needed was my womb. That is how I ended up selling my womb to this Sangoma. I went back to that Sangoma in person because I wanted to understand what he meant. And then the Sangoma told me that the mermaids were going to take my womb as a sacrifice, and in return they were going to give me something that will be amazing, something that will be great. So I dedicated my womb to the mermaids. What he did was that when we went there, a man inserting an egg into my private part, that is the ritual that we performed when we returned back to that river. I slept at his house on that night, and early in the morning we got into his car. It was him, his wife, and other women that had came to his house for this ceremony that they call Ukutwasa in South Africa. We went back to the river, and he had an egg that he said that he was going to push into my womb, and he told me to undress myself. I did that, and the water was very cold when we went into the river. He then came, and then he told me to open up my legs. So I opened up my legs, and he then started pushing the egg into my private part, and he baptized me. The strange thing is that when I finally got out of the water, the egg was no longer there in my private part. I asked him, and he said that this egg had remained in the water for the mermaids. He had accepted my sacrifice. That is how I sacrificed my womb to the mermaids. After that ritual was done, that was when I started to see a lot of discharge that was mixed with some tissue, meaning that my womb was slowly decaying. Up until this very day, my own husband does not even know that I do not have a womb. We do go to the hospital, and then we are told that everything is okay. But how can I bring myself to tell him that I do not have a womb, therefore I cannot conceive, for I do not want to lose him? Money I made, and that healer passed away. He was the only one who could assist me to get my womb back. I am so much hurt, so much that I have become sort of like an evil person. I hate people that have kids. When I see a woman with a small baby, even if I see that person just strolling with the baby whilst the baby is in the pram, I feel like hitting that person with a car so that both of them can die. Even when I go to church, when I see those young kids running around, it reminds me that I am a barren woman because I sacrificed my soul to the devil. I now have a higher position in church because that pastor, who used to be very powerful, such that whenever you would preach, I would feel the Holy Spirit raining fire on me, and it will be very painful. After I had gotten this power from the marine spirits, I started seducing him, and I started donating money to his wife, took his wife on a vacation, and whilst we were there, at night I would mount myself on top of her, such that when we would wake up, she will say that I had a weird dream. I was sleeping with another woman. She did not know it was I, the girl who now has the marine spirits, who would be sleeping with her. When she returned back home to her husband, who was no longer prayerful, when they slept together, she then transferred those evil spirits into the pastor. Now the pastor is just a former shelf of himself. People, they still believe that he's a man of God, but I am finished with him. I slept with him, I don't know how many times, until I dumped him when I saw that I had stolen his glory away from him. This is my confession, Brother Nashi. I did these rituals not because I wanted to become an evil girl who is controlled by marine spirits, but it just happened. Dear listeners, right there was a message that was sent to me by one of our dear sister. That was the translation. Strange things indeed they do happen in this world.